December 2019. Texas Department of Public Safety. Underground archive room. The air was cold. Sterile. Dead. Peter Hall sat alone at his workstation, staring at rows of digital files that nobody wanted to touch. Missing kids. Unsolved murders. Bodies with no names. Cases so old, most of the families were already gone. Tonight felt like every other night. Routine scans. False matches. No hope. Then his screen beeped. Once. Twice. 3 times. Peter barely looked up. Probably another system error. Happens all the time. But the beeping didn't stop. He leaned closer. His heart stopped. Partial genetic match detected. Missing child file, Texas, 1953. Case, Liam Campbell. Age 3. Peter's hands froze over the keyboard. Everyone in Texas law enforcement knew that name. The Georgetown disappearance. The boy who vanished from his backyard in broad daylight. No body. No ransom. No answers. Just gone. For 66 years, that case sat in the dark like a ghost no one could bury. But now, right now, a DNA match was lighting up his screen. From Arizona. Not a relative. Not a descendant. A direct match. Peter's breath caught in his throat. The system ran a second confirmation. Then a third. Ancestry database. Family tree DNA. GED match. Every single one came back the same. Match confidence, 99.07%. Then the words that changed everything. Possible victim still alive. Peter stood up so fast his chair rolled backward and slammed into the wall. He stared at the screen like it was lying to him. Like it had to be lying. A 3-year-old boy went missing in 1953. That boy would be 69 years old now. And according to this system, he was alive. Living under a different name. In Arizona. Peter's hands shook as he reached for the phone. Within minutes, emails triggered. Command alerts fired off. Texas Rangers were contacted. The case that everyone thought was dead, wasn't dead. It was waiting. And it had just woken up. Across the building, senior investigator Rachel Moreno got the call at 11:47 p.m. She was packing up to go home. Her coffee was cold. Her eyes were tired. But when she heard the words, Liam Campbell, and living DNA match, she sat back down. Are you serious? She whispered into the phone. Peter's voice cracked. I've run it 6 times. It's him. Rachel pulled up the original case file from 1953. Black and white photos. A small boy with blonde hair and blue eyes, holding a red toy truck. His mother's statement. His father's grief. The search that lasted weeks and found nothing. She scrolled to the final report, written in 1954. No evidence of foul play. No evidence of survival. Presumed deceased. But that presumption was wrong. Rachel looked at the new DNA report again. James Dalton. Age 69. Scottsdale, Arizona. No criminal record. Quiet life. Retired. And completely unaware that his entire existence was built on a lie. She closed the file and stood up. Get Arizona PD on the line, she said. And don't say a word to the media. Not yet. Because if this was real, if a child stolen in 1953 was still alive today, then someone had hidden him for 66 years. Someone had taken him. Raised him. Renamed him. And never let him know the truth. Rachel grabbed her jacket and headed for the door. This wasn't just a cold case. This was a resurrection. And somewhere in Arizona, a man named James Dalton was about to learn that his entire life wasn't his. Before we dive in, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoy true crime stories like this, be sure to like the video, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share it with someone who'd love it too. Georgetown, Texas. Summer of 1953. This wasn't the Texas you know today. No security cameras. No Amber Alerts. No cell phones. No fingerprint databases. People left their car keys in the ignition. Kids played barefoot in yards with no fences. Neighbors didn't lock their doors because they didn't need to. Evil didn't live here. At least, that's what everyone believed. Margaret and Richard Campbell lived at 1823 Willow Creek Road. A modest yellow ranch house with a big backyard and an even bigger oak tree. Their 3-year-old son, Liam, spent every afternoon under that tree. Playing in the dirt. Pushing his red toy truck across the grass. Laughing at nothing the way only little kids do. Richard worked hard as an air conditioning technician. Long hours. Honest pay. He came home tired but always made time to toss a ball with his son before dinner. Margaret worked at the local bakery. She was known for her kindness. Always smiling. Always helping. She believed the whole town helped raise her boy. And that trust, that beautiful, innocent trust, would destroy her. Thursday, June 11, 1953. The day started normal. Too normal. The sun was bright. The heat was thick. Laundry hung on the line, flapping in the breeze. Cicadas buzzed in the trees. Margaret's younger sister, Eleanor, came over to help babysit while Margaret baked pies for the morning delivery. Everything was routine. Safe. Boring. At 3:58 p.m., a neighbor named Mr. Hastings saw a gray Plymouth sedan circling the block. Slow. Real slow. He didn't think much of it. Probably someone looking for an address. He went back inside. At 4:03 p.m., Margaret stepped into the kitchen to pull pies from the oven. The smell of cinnamon filled the house. Eleanor walked to the front yard to fold laundry off the line. And at 4:05 p.m., the backyard went silent. No laughter. No toy truck sounds. No little voice calling for his mama. Just silence. Margaret wiped her hands on her apron and stepped outside. She expected to see Liam digging in the dirt. Maybe chasing a bug. Maybe napping under the tree. Instead, she saw an empty yard. The red toy truck was there, lying on its side in the grass. But Liam was gone. At first, Margaret didn't panic. She called his name. Liam? No answer. She walked toward the tree. Looked behind it. Liam, honey, where are you? Still nothing. Her heart started to beat faster. She checked the shed. The fence. The gate. Everything was closed. Locked. Normal. But her son wasn't there. Eleanor came running from the front yard. What's wrong? Margaret's voice cracked. He's not here. He's not here. Eleanor's face went pale. Within minutes, neighbors flooded the yard. They searched every inch. Behind bushes. Under porches. Inside cars. They kept saying the same thing. He probably just wandered off. Kids do that. But the gate was closed. The fence had no gaps. And there were no footprints leading out. By 4:20 p.m., hope turned into fear. By 4:30 p.m., someone called the sheriff. And by 4:45 p.m., the entire neighborhood knew. Liam Campbell was missing. Sheriff Harold Miles arrived with 3 deputies. They expanded the search to nearby roads, creeks, empty fields. Volunteers walked shoulder to shoulder through tall grass. Farm hands joined in. Even the church pastor showed up. But no one found anything. One neighbor, Mrs. Dorrington, pulled the sheriff aside. Her voice was quiet. Shaky. "I saw something earlier," she said. "What?" "A man. Carrying a child. Walking fast. Real fast." The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "Did you recognize him?" "No. But I thought it was his own kid. So I didn't say anything." Her voice broke. "I should have said something." The sheriff wrote it down. But deep down, he knew. It was already too late. As the sun set, floodlights went up. Search dogs were brought in. But the scent trail stopped halfway up Willow Creek Road. Right where tire tracks appeared in the mud. Margaret stood in the backyard, staring at the red toy truck still lying in the grass. Her legs gave out. She collapsed to her knees. Richard held her as she sobbed into his chest. And in that moment, everything changed. The town that trusted everyone now trusted no one. Because evil didn't just come to Georgetown. It had been there all along. Waiting. Margaret stood frozen in the backyard. Her hands were shaking. Her breath was short. Her mind couldn't catch up to what her eyes were seeing. An empty yard. A toy truck on its side. And no son. She called his name again. Louder this time. "Liam." Her voice cracked. Eleanor ran over, eyes wide. "What happened? Where is he?" Margaret didn't answer. She couldn't. Her throat was closing. Her chest was tight. She walked toward the fence. Checked the latch. Still locked. She looked at the gate. Still closed. No broken boards. No gaps. No way out. But he was gone. Within 5 minutes, neighbors were flooding into the yard. Mr. Hastings from next door. Mrs. Dorrington from across the street. The Lewises. The Johnsons. Everyone. They searched everywhere. Behind the shed. Under the porch. Inside the old chicken coop. Someone checked the oak tree, like maybe he climbed it and got stuck. But there was nothing. One neighbor said, "Maybe he's hiding." You know how kids are. Margaret shook her head. Tears streaming. He doesn't hide. He doesn't run off. He stays close. Another neighbor said, "Maybe he went to follow a dog or something." But there were no dogs in the yard that day. And Liam never wandered. Ever. By 4:20 p.m., the mood shifted. This wasn't a game anymore. This wasn't a toddler playing hide and seek. Something was wrong. Sheriff Harold Miles arrived with 2 deputies. He took one look at Margaret's face and knew this was serious. "When did you last see him?" he asked. Margaret's voice trembled. "Maybe 10 minutes ago. I stepped inside to get the pies. Eleanor was in the front. He was right here." "And the gate?" "Locked. It's always locked." The sheriff walked the perimeter. Checked the fence. Checked the dirt for footprints. Nothing. He radioed for more help. Within the hour, volunteer search teams were formed. Dozens of people. Walking through fields. Checking ditches. Knocking on doors. But no one found him. Then Mrs. Dorrington spoke up. Her voice was quiet. Almost embarrassed. "I saw something earlier." Everyone stopped. The sheriff turned to her. "What did you see?" She hesitated. "A man. Carrying a child. Walking fast. Down Willow Creek Road." What time? Around 4. Maybe a little after. Did you recognize him? She shook her head. No. But I thought it was his own kid. So I didn't think anything of it. Her hand started shaking. I should have said something. I should have. Her voice broke. The sheriff put a hand on her shoulder. It's okay. You didn't know. But deep down, everyone knew. She could have stopped this. If she had just said something. Just asked a question. Maybe Liam would still be here. By sunset, search dogs arrived. They picked up a scent near the back fence. Followed it down the road. But then, the trail stopped. Right in the middle of Willow Creek Road. Where tire tracks sat fresh in the mud. The dogs circled. Sniffed the ground. But the scent was gone. Sheriff Miles crouched down. Studied the tracks. Wide tires. Heavy vehicle. Probably a sedan. He stood up and looked at his deputy. Someone took him. The deputy's face went pale. You sure? The scent doesn't just disappear. He didn't walk away. He was carried. And then he was put in a car. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Margaret heard it from across the yard. She let out a scream that no mother should ever have to make. A sound so raw, so broken, it made grown men turn away. Richard caught her before she collapsed. He held her tight. But he couldn't hold her together. Because in that moment, their son wasn't just missing. He was taken. By someone. Someone who planned it. Someone who knew exactly what they were doing. As night fell, floodlights lit up the yard. But the light didn't bring hope. It only made the darkness feel heavier. Margaret sat on the back porch, staring at the red toy truck still lying in the grass. She couldn't move. Couldn't speak. Richard sat beside her, his face blank. Empty. And all around them, neighbors whispered the same terrifying truth. If it could happen to the Campbells, it could happen to anyone. No one locked their doors in Georgetown. But that night, every single door was locked. Every window checked. Every child pulled close. Because evil had come to their town. And it had taken one of their own. The Georgetown Sheriff's Office had never handled a child abduction. Never. Before 1953, missing persons reports were runaways. Family disputes. Someone who went to visit cousins in Dallas and forgot to tell anyone. But this? A 3-year-old boy. Snatched from his own backyard. In broad daylight. No witnesses. No ransom. No leads. That didn't happen in Texas. That didn't happen anywhere. Within 48 hours, the Texas Rangers were called in. Captain Wallace Burke took command. He was a hard man. Seen everything. Solved cases that seemed impossible. But even he looked uneasy. His team worked fast. In 3 days, they conducted 412 interviews, 76 vehicle inspections, 7 polygraph tests, 1,800 acres of ground searched, 39 wells, drains, and barns checked. Every adult who had been near the Campbell property that week was questioned. Friends. Babysitters. Delivery drivers. Even the local pastor. Some were interviewed twice. Some 3 times. And every single one of them passed. No one seemed suspicious. No one acted guilty. No one knew anything. But there was one name that kept coming up. Not as a suspect. Not as a witness. Just, noticed. A woman named Marilyn Price. She rented a room 3 houses down from the Campbells. Lived alone. Worked briefly at a school. Quiet. Kept to herself. Neighbors described her as soft-spoken and kind. But there was something else they said. Something that didn't sit right. She was always watching the children. Not in a creepy way. Just interested. Too interested. Captain Burke interviewed her on June 14, 1953. She sat calmly in the interrogation room. Hands folded. Voice steady. "Did you see anything unusual on Thursday afternoon?" he asked. "No, sir," she said. "Did you see Liam Campbell playing in his yard?" "I may have. I don't recall specifically." "Do you know the family?" "Only in passing. I've seen them at church." Burke leaned forward. "Where were you between 3:30 and 4:30 p.m. that day?" She didn't hesitate. "At home. Reading." "Anyone see you?" "No. I live alone." Burke wrote it down. But something felt off. Her answers were too smooth. Too rehearsed. But there was no evidence. No motive. No reason to hold her. So he let her go. The next day. She was gone. Moved out overnight. No forwarding address. No goodbye to the landlord. No explanation. Just gone. Captain Burke went back to her rental room. Empty. But the landlord showed him something. The rental application she filled out. Her signature. Her references. Her social security number. Burke ran them through state records. Nothing. The references didn't exist. The social security number had never been issued. Even her name, Marilyn Price, had no birth certificate. No employment history. No driver's license. It was like she never existed. Burke stood in that empty room and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Fear. Not because he didn't know who took Liam. But because he did. And she was already gone. The investigation dragged on for months. Every lead went cold. Every tip led nowhere. By December 1953, the case was unofficially shelved. In the final report, Captain Burke wrote one line that haunted everyone who read it. "This feels deliberate. Like someone took him, not to harm him, but to keep him." That line stayed in the file for 66 years. Because it was the truth. And the truth was terrifying. Margaret Campbell read that report in 1954. She sat at her kitchen table, hands trembling, tears streaming down her face. "They think he's alive," she whispered to Richard. Richard didn't respond. He just stared out the window. "They think someone took him to keep him," she said again. Richard's jaw tightened. "Then why won't they find him?" Margaret had no answer. Because the investigators had no tools. No fingerprints had been taken from the scene. No DNA testing existed. No security cameras. No surveillance. No digital records. All they had were witness statements. And witnesses could lie. Years passed. The case went cold. But Margaret never stopped believing. She kept Liam's room exactly the way he left it. His bed untouched. His clothes folded. His red toy truck sitting on the dresser, right where his little hands last placed it. Every night, she turned on the light in his room. Every Sunday, she brought fresh flowers. And every year on his birthday, she baked him a cake. Richard thought she was losing her mind. But Margaret would say the same thing every time. "He's not dead. I would feel it if he was dead." And she was right. Because somewhere far away, in a quiet house in Arizona, a little boy with no memory of Texas was being raised by a woman who believed he was hers. A woman who had stolen him. Not out of hate. But out of love. The most dangerous kind. Everyone thought the Campbells would move. Start fresh. Leave the memories behind. Go somewhere new where people didn't stare at them with pity. But they never left. They stayed in that yellow house on Willow Creek Road. And they kept his room exactly the way it was. Liam's bedroom was at the end of the hallway. Small. Simple. Blue curtains. A wooden bed with a patchwork quilt. His clothes still hung in the closet. His shoes still sat by the door. His books still stacked on the shelf. And his red toy truck still sat on the dresser. Right where his little hands had left it. Nothing moved. Nothing changed. For 32 years. Margaret cleaned that room every single week. Dusted the furniture. Smoothed the blanket. Straightened the books. She acted like he was coming home. Like he'd walk through the door any minute and ask for a snack. Every Sunday, she brought fresh flowers. Daisies. His favorite. She'd place them on the windowsill and sit on the edge of his bed. And she'd talk to him. "I know you're out there, baby," she'd whisper. "I know you're still alive." Richard would stand in the hallway and listen. He never said anything. He couldn't. Because part of him believed she was right. And part of him thought she was breaking. Neighbors noticed the light. Every single night, Liam's bedroom light was on. Even though no one went inside. Even though the door stayed closed most of the time. It was like Margaret was leaving a beacon. A signal. So if Liam ever found his way home, he'd know which house was his. In 1961, a family therapist came to visit. She sat with Margaret in the living room. Tried to talk to her gently. "Mrs. Campbell," she said. "It's been 8 years. You need to start healing." Margaret's face didn't change. "I will heal when my son comes home." "But the chances." "I don't care about chances," Margaret interrupted. "I care about my son." The therapist tried again. "Keeping his room like this, it's not healthy. You're holding on to something that may never." Margaret stood up. "Get out." The therapist blinked. "Excuse me?" "Get out of my house." She never came back. Richard was different. He didn't talk about Liam. He didn't visit the room. He barely spoke at all after 1961. He'd sit at the dinner table every night. Staring down the hallway. Toward the room. Toward the light. His co-workers said he became a ghost. Present. But not really there. One night, a friend asked him, "Do you think he's still alive?" Richard didn't answer for a long time. Then he said, "I don't know. But Margaret does. And that's enough." In 1968, the local priest visited. He'd known the Campbells for years. Watched them suffer. Watched them fade. He sat with them at the kitchen table. "I think," he said carefully, "it might be time to let Liam rest." Margaret's eyes hardened. "He's not resting. He's waiting." The priest looked at Richard. "What do you think?" Richard didn't hesitate. "She's right." The priest sighed. "But you have no proof. No contact. No sign. After 15 years. Richard stood up. Calm. Steady. "He's not resting," he said again. "He's waiting. And so are we." The priest left. And the Campbells kept waiting. By the 1970s, people stopped asking. The case was forgotten by most. But not by Margaret. Not by Richard. And not by the state of Texas. Because in 1972, legal motions were filed. The state wanted to declare Liam legally dead. For insurance purposes. Foreclosure. For record keeping. Margaret refused. She fought it in court. Her lawyer tried to reason with her. Mrs. Campbell, it's been 19 years. This is just a formality. Margaret's voice was ice. My son is not dead. And I will not sign a paper that says he is. The judge looked at her with sympathy. Mrs. Campbell, I understand your pain. But without evidence. I don't need evidence, she said. I'm his mother. I would know. The courtroom went silent. The judge ruled in her favor. Liam Campbell remained legally alive. Missing. But alive. The years kept passing. Margaret kept the flowers fresh. Richard kept the light on. And the red toy truck kept waiting on the dresser. In 1985, Margaret was diagnosed with cancer. She had 6 months to live. Her final request? Don't touch his room. Richard promised. Margaret passed away on a Tuesday morning in November. And even then, even as she took her last breath, she whispered the same thing she'd been saying for 32 years. He's still out there. Richard lived alone after that. He kept his promise. He didn't touch the room. He kept the light on every night. And when he died in 1994, the room was still untouched. The flowers were still there. And the red toy truck was still waiting. Because somewhere in Arizona, a man named James Dalton was living a quiet life. With no idea that across the country, 2 parents had spent their entire lives waiting for him to come home. And they died. Still waiting. 1987, Texas Cold Case Unit got new technology. DNA testing was starting to change everything. Cases that had been buried for decades were being reopened. And Liam Campbell's file was pulled from the archive. Not because anyone expected answers, but because it was protocol. Detective Maria Sanchez was assigned to review it. She sat in a small office with boxes of evidence spread across her desk. Photos. Witness statements. Search reports. She'd seen dozens of cold cases. Most of them stayed cold. But when she opened Liam's evidence box, something felt different. There were 5 pieces of physical evidence collected in 1953. Back then, investigators didn't know what to do with them. They were logged, bagged, forgotten. But now? Now they told a story. A story that had been waiting 34 years to be heard. Evidence 1, shoe print. Found 40 feet from the back fence. Adult male. Size 10.5. In 1953, police assumed it belonged to a searcher or neighbor. They never followed up. But Maria ran it through the new database. And got a hit. The print matched a man named Jack Marlowe. He lived in Georgetown in 1953. Rented a room at Mrs. Prescott's boarding house. No criminal record. No red flags. But here's the thing. He left town the same week Liam disappeared. No forwarding address. No explanation. Just gone. Maria circled his name. Evidence 2, torn yellow cloth. Found snagged on the barbed wire fence. In 1953, they assumed it came from someone's laundry. Maybe a towel. Maybe a shirt. Who knows? But Maria had it tested. The lab confirmed. It was cotton. Child-sized. Yellow dye consistent with 1950s fabric. And it matched the description of the shirt Liam was wearing that day. Maria's hands went cold. This wasn't random fabric. This was his shirt. Torn as he was carried over the fence. Evidence 3, gray Plymouth sedan. 3 neighbors reported it. Circling the block. Slow. Suspicious. But in 1953, gray Plymouths were common. Police didn't track it. Maria pulled vehicle registration records from 1953. Only 2 gray Plymouths were registered in Georgetown that year. One belonged to a church pastor. The other? Registered to a woman named Marilyn Ellis. Not Marilyn Price. Ellis. Same first name. Different last name. Maria's pulse quickened. She cross-referenced the address. The car was registered 3 towns over. But the rental records showed Marilyn Price lived in Georgetown at the exact same time. Same person. Different name. Evidence number 4, Nursery Employment Log. Marilyn Price worked at Georgetown Methodist Nursery School. Only for 6 weeks. Then she quit. No reason given. Maria found the old employee file. Inside was a handwritten application. She compared the handwriting to the boarding house rental card. Identical. Same loops. Same slant. Same pressure. But that wasn't the worst part. The nursery log showed Marilyn worked there in May 1953. 1 month before Liam disappeared. And according to the log, she had direct access to the children, including Liam. Evidence number 5, no ransom. No body. No contact. This was the part that haunted everyone. Why take a child and never ask for money? Why take a child and never harm him? Why take a child and simply vanish? Maria read the psychological profile from 1953. It said, abductor likely female. Motive, maternal obsession or delusion. Victim may still be alive. But no one believed it back then. Because women didn't kidnap children. At least, that's what people thought. But Maria knew better. She sat back in her chair. Stared at the evidence spread across her desk. 5 pieces. 5 clues. All ignored in 1953. But now? Now they painted a clear picture. Marilyn Price wasn't a random stranger. She knew Liam. She worked with children. She had access to him. She owned a gray Plymouth. And she left town the moment he disappeared. This wasn't a crime of opportunity. This was planned. Calculated. Deliberate. Maria picked up the phone. I need to track someone, she said. A woman named Marilyn Price. Also goes by Marilyn Ellis. When did she go missing? She didn't go missing, Maria said. She disappeared. There's a difference. But here's the problem. In 1987, there was no internet. No social media. No digital footprint. If someone wanted to disappear, they could. And Marilyn had. Maria spent months searching. Birth records. Death records. Tax records. Nothing. It was like she never existed. But Maria knew the truth. She existed. She took Liam. And somewhere, she was still out there. The case went cold again. But Maria kept the file. She kept the evidence. She kept hoping. Because she knew. One day, the truth would surface. One day, technology would catch up. One day, someone would find him. And 32 years later, in 2019, someone did. Not because they were looking. But because DNA doesn't lie. And neither does blood. December 2019. The DNA alert that started everything. But here's what most people don't understand. This wasn't luck. This wasn't random. This was inevitable. Because DNA databases had been quietly growing for years. Ancestry. 23andMe, My Heritage. GED match. Millions of people uploading their genetic data. Looking for relatives. Medical history. Ethnic background. And buried in all that data was a man who had no idea he was missing. His name was James Dalton. Age 69. Lived in Scottsdale, Arizona. Retired. Quiet. Kept to himself. In 2018, his daughter convinced him to take a DNA test. "Come on, Dad," she said. "Let's see where we come from." James didn't care much about ancestry. But he did it to make her happy. He spit in the tube. Mailed it off. Forgot about it. And that one decision changed everything. When the Texas database pinged his DNA, it wasn't just a match. It was a 99.07% direct identity match. Not a cousin. Not a distant relative. Him. Liam Campbell. The system flagged it immediately. Sent alerts to 3 departments. Texas Rangers. FBI. Arizona State Police. Within hours, investigators were scrambling. Because this wasn't supposed to be possible. Missing children from 1953 don't just show up alive in 2019. They're dead. Or never found. But not this time. Arizona police were sent to his address. 2 detectives. Plain clothes. Calm approach. They knocked on his door at 9:34 a.m. James answered. Gray hair. Kind eyes. Confused expression. "Can I help you?" he asked. "Mr. Dalton, I'm Detective Hayes. This is Detective Ruiz. We need to ask you a few questions." James frowned. "About what?" "About your family history." James looked even more confused. "I don't understand. Can we come inside?" James hesitated. But he let them in. They sat in his living room. Pictures on the wall. Grandkids smiling. Normal life. Detective Hayes pulled out a folder. "Mr. Dalton, have you ever heard the name Liam Campbell?" James shook his head. "No. Should I? What about Georgetown, Texas?" James paused. His brow furrowed. "Texas," he said slowly. "I don't know. Maybe. I don't really remember much from when I was young." Detective Ruiz leaned forward. "What do you remember?" James shrugged. "Not much before I was 6 or 7. My mom said I had a hard childhood. Memory issues. I don't remember." The detectives exchanged a look. "Mr. Dalton," Hayes said carefully. "We need you to take another DNA test. A more detailed one." "Why?" "Because we believe you may have been reported missing in 1953. James stared at him. Then he laughed. Not a happy laugh. A confused, uncomfortable laugh. "That's impossible," he said. "I'm not missing. I'm right here." But deep down, something stirred. A memory. A feeling. A shadow. James had always felt disconnected. Like his life didn't start when it should have. Like there was a gap he couldn't explain. His daughter used to ask him about his childhood. He'd say, "I don't really remember." His wife used to ask about his parents. He'd say, "They're gone now. It doesn't matter." But it did matter. Because the woman he called his mother wasn't his mother. Detective Hayes showed him a photo. Black and white. Faded. Old. A little boy. Blonde hair. Blue eyes. Holding a red toy truck. "Do you recognize this?" Hayes asked. James stared at the photo. His hands started to shake. His voice cracked. I don't know. Take your time. James kept staring. And then he whispered something. The truck. Hayes leaned closer. What about it? I remember a truck, James said. Red. The wheels were broken. The room went silent. Because that detail was never made public. Detective Ruiz pulled out another photo. A house. Yellow paint. Big oak tree in the back. What about this? James looked at it. His breath caught. I've seen this before. Where? I don't know. A dream, maybe. But it wasn't a dream. It was a memory. Buried for 66 years. They took him in for a formal DNA test. Mouth swab. Blood sample. Full panel. James sat in the cold room, staring at the wall. His whole life felt like it was falling apart. Everything he knew. Everything he believed. Was it all a lie? 3 days later. The results came back. Texas Rangers called Arizona PD. The voice on the other end was shaking. It's him. It's Liam Campbell. Detective Hayes closed his eyes. You're sure? 99.9% match. No doubt. Hayes hung up. Walked into the room where James was waiting. James looked up. Well? Hayes sat down. And said the words that shattered a man's entire existence. Mr. Dalton, your real name is Liam Campbell. You were taken from your home in Georgetown, Texas on June 11, 1953. You were 3 years old. James didn't move. Didn't speak. He just stared. And then he broke. Not with anger. Not with relief. But with grief. Because in that moment, he realized he'd lost 66 years. 66 years of a life that was stolen from him. A life he never got to live. The biggest breakthrough wasn't the DNA. It wasn't the car. It wasn't the torn fabric. It was a notebook. After James Dalton's identity was confirmed, investigators tore through every record they could find. Property records. Storage units. Bank accounts. Anything connected to the woman who raised him. The woman he knew as Grace. Her real name, Caroline Dalton. She died in 2003. But before she died, she left something behind. A storage unit in Flagstaff, Arizona. Rented under the name Marilyn Ellis. The rent had been paid automatically for 16 years. Even after her death. Like she wanted it hidden. Forever. When investigators finally opened it, they found boxes. Old furniture. Clothes. Photos. And in the back corner, a small leather notebook. Worn. Faded. Pages yellowed with age. Inside were entries written in perfect, delicate handwriting. Calm. Elegant. Terrifying. Entry, April 1953. I saw him again today. Playing in the yard. Alone. Unprotected. His mother doesn't watch him closely enough. She doesn't deserve him. Investigators read that line 3 times. She was watching him. 4 weeks. Planning. Entry, May 1953. I spoke to him at the nursery. He smiled at me. He knows me now. He trusts me. That's good. Trust is important. She worked at the nursery. She built a relationship with him. She made herself safe in his eyes. This wasn't random. This was grooming. Entry, June 10, 1953. Tomorrow. It has to be tomorrow. I've waited long enough. He belongs with me. He was always supposed to be mine. One day before the abduction. She knew exactly when. Exactly how. Entry, June 12, 1953. It's done. He cried at first. But then he stopped. I sang to him. Held him. He fell asleep in my arms. He's safe now. Finally safe. Investigators felt sick reading it. She didn't see herself as a kidnapper. She saw herself as a savior. Entry, June 20, 1953. He asked for his mother today. I told him I am his mother now. He didn't understand. But he will. Children forget. It's a blessing. That line broke everyone. Children forget. And Liam did. But the worst entry, the one that haunted everyone, was written years later. Entry, August 1959. He's growing. I didn't expect that. I thought time would stop. I thought he would stay small. Stay mine. But he's changing. Getting older. Asking questions. She didn't want him to grow up. She wanted him frozen. A child forever. Entry, March 1965. He's 12 now. He looks at me differently. Like he knows something is wrong. But he doesn't ask. Maybe he's afraid. Maybe he just wants to believe me. Liam, James, spent his entire childhood sensing something was off. But he had no proof. No memories. Just a feeling. Entry, November 1971. He's leaving for college. I begged him not to go. But he says he needs to live his own life. His own life. As if he ever had one. That sentence. As if he ever had one. She knew. She always knew. She stole his life. And she didn't care. Entry, April 1998. He has children now. Grandchildren I'll never meet. He calls me once a month. Out of obligation, I think. Not love. I lost him years ago. But I still see him. The little boy in the yard. The one who smiled at me. The one who was supposed to stay. Even decades later. She still saw him as that 3-year-old. Not the man he became. The boy she took. And then. The final entry. Written just weeks before she died. Entry, September 2003. He was never supposed to grow up. He was supposed to stay mine. But he grew anyway. That was it. 3 lines. No explanation. No remorse. Just disappointment. Like he betrayed her. By living. When James was shown the journal, he couldn't speak. He sat in the interrogation room, hands trembling, staring at the pages. Detective Hayes asked quietly, "Do you recognize the handwriting?" James nodded slowly. "That's her," he whispered. "That's Grace. Your mother." James looked up. Tears in his eyes. "She wasn't my mother." His voice cracked. "She was my captor." He flipped through the pages. Saw his name written over and over. Saw her obsession. Saw her delusion. And then he said something that shattered everyone in the room. "She told me once, when I was 16, she said, 'You used to be someone else. But that name wasn't meant for you.'" He paused. "I thought she was talking about a nickname. Or a mistake on my birth certificate." He looked at the journal. "But she meant my entire life." Investigators asked him one question. "Did she ever hurt you?" James shook his head. "No. She never hit me. Never yelled. She was kind, gentle, protective. He looked down. That's what makes this so hard. What do you mean? Because part of me still loves her, he whispered. Even though I know I shouldn't. That's the cruelest part. She didn't abuse him. She didn't harm him. She loved him. In her own twisted, broken way. And that love destroyed 2 families. The Campbells, who lost their son. And James, who lost himself. February 2020. Texas Rangers arranged for James to return to Georgetown. Not as a suspect. Not as a witness. As a victim. A victim returning to the scene of a crime he couldn't remember. James sat in the back of an unmarked SUV. Detective Hayes drove. Detective Moreno sat in the passenger seat. The ride from the airport was quiet. James stared out the window. Watching Texas roll by. He'd been to Texas before. For work. For conferences. But never here. Never Georgetown. And yet. Something felt familiar. How are you doing? Moreno asked. James didn't answer right away. Then, I don't know what I'm supposed to feel. There's no right answer, she said. James nodded. But his hands were shaking. They drove through downtown Georgetown. Old buildings. Small shops. Quiet streets. Nothing looked familiar. But then. They turned onto Willow Creek Road. And something shifted. James sat up straighter. His breath quickened. Slow down, he said suddenly. Hayes eased off the gas. James leaned toward the window. His eyes scanned the houses. One after another. And then. Stop. Hayes stopped the car. James stared at a yellow house. Faded paint. Old oak tree in the back. Cracked driveway. That's it, James whispered. Moreno turned around. That's what? That's the house. How do you know? James didn't answer. He just opened the door and got out. He stood on the sidewalk. Staring. The house looked abandoned. Windows dusty. Grass overgrown. But the tree. The tree was still there. Bigger now. Older. Heavier branches. James walked toward it. Slowly. Like he was being pulled. Hayes and Moreno followed but kept their distance. James stepped into the yard. His feet moved on their own. Past the driveway. Past the fence. Straight to the backyard. And there. Under the oak tree. He stopped. He crouched down. Ran his fingers through the grass. And closed his eyes. I've been here before, he whispered. Moreno stepped closer. What do you remember? I don't know. It's not clear. But I feel it. He opened his eyes. Looked at the back door. I didn't leave through the front door. Hayes frowned. What do you mean? James stood up. Walked toward the fence line. Pointed. She carried me this way. I remember her arms. I remember her voice. He paused. She said, "Don't cry. You're safe now." His voice cracked. And I believed her. Moreno pulled out a photo. The original crime scene photo from 1953. Showed it to James. Does this look familiar? James stared at it. Same yard. Same tree. Same fence. But in the photo, a small red toy truck sat in the grass. James's knees buckled. He grabbed the fence to steady himself. The truck, he gasped. What about it? I had that truck. I remember now. The wheels were bent. Tears started falling. I loved that truck. Hayes asked gently, "Do you want to go inside?" James hesitated. Then nodded. The current owner, an elderly woman, had agreed to let them in. She didn't live there anymore. Just owned it. Rented it out for years. But one room she never touched. "My husband bought this house in 1995, she said. "The previous owner made us promise. Never change the boy's room." James froze. "What boy?" She looked at him sadly. "The one who went missing." She led them down the hallway. "Second door on the right." She opened it. And James stepped inside. The room was frozen in time. A small bed. Blue curtains. Wooden dresser. And on the dresser, a red toy truck. Faded. Dusty. But still there. James walked toward it. Picked it up. Held it in his hands. And something inside him broke. "This was mine," he whispered. He turned the wheels. They were bent. Just like he remembered. "This was mine." He sat on the floor. Toy truck in his lap. And cried. Not quiet tears. Deep, gut-wrenching sobs. 66 years of stolen memories. 66 years of a life he never got to live. All crashing down at once. Moreno knelt beside him. "You're home now," she said softly. James shook his head. "This isn't home. Not anymore." He looked around the room. "This is a tomb." He held up the truck. "This is all that's left of who I was supposed to be." Hayes stepped forward. "We can take you to meet some people. Neighbors who remember your parents. People who searched for you." James looked up. "Are my parents still alive?" The silence answered him. "When did they die?" Moreno's voice was gentle. "Your mother in 1985. Your father in 1994. James closed his eyes. "Did they ever stop looking?" "No," Moreno said. "They never did." James broke again. "They died waiting for me." "Yes. And I didn't even know." He stayed in that room for 20 minutes. Just sitting. Holding the truck. Trying to remember. Trying to feel something. But all he felt was emptiness. Because this wasn't a reunion. This was a funeral. For a boy who died 66 years ago. A boy named Liam Campbell. A boy he used to be. Before someone took him. Before someone renamed him. Before someone erased him. When he finally stood up. He placed the truck back on the dresser. Right where it had waited for 66 years. "I can't take it," he said. "Why not?" Hayes asked. James looked at him. "Because it doesn't belong to me anymore." He walked to the door. Stopped. Looked back one last time. "It belongs to the boy who never came home." June 13, 1953. 2 days after Liam disappeared. Georgetown Sheriff's Office was flooded with witness statements. Dozens of people claiming they saw something. Most of it was useless. Someone saw a suspicious man at the gas station. Someone saw a strange car 3 towns over. Someone heard a child crying in the middle of the night. None of it led anywhere. But there was one statement. One interview. That everyone dismissed. Her name was Loretta Grange. She lived directly across from the Campbell house. Her husband worked with Richard at the air conditioning company. She was home the day Liam disappeared. And she saw something. Witness statement, June 13, 1953. Name, Loretta Grange. Address: 1826 Willow Creek Road. Time of observation: approximately 4:10 p.m. Statement: I was folding laundry on my front porch. I saw a woman walking down the lane. She was carrying a child. A small child. Maybe 2 or 3 years old. The officer taking the statement asked, "Did the child seem distressed?" No. That's the thing. He wasn't crying. Wasn't fighting. He just let her carry him. Did you recognize the woman? No. But she looked calm. Not rushed. Not scared. Like she belonged. What was she wearing? A light-colored dress. Maybe yellow or cream. A hat. Sunglasses. Did you see where she went? She walked toward the end of the street. Then I went back inside. I didn't think anything of it. Why not? Because she looked like a mother. Carrying her own child. The officer wrote it down. Filed it. Marked it, likely unrelated. Witness saw a neighbor with her own child. Case dismissed. But in 2019, when the case was reopened, behavioral analysts reviewed that statement and immediately flagged it. Dr. Ellen Marsh, forensic psychologist, wrote in her report, "This is not a witness statement that should have been ignored. This is the single most accurate description of a planned abduction." She highlighted 3 key details. The child wasn't crying. Meaning he knew the abductor. Trusted her. The woman wasn't rushing. Meaning this wasn't a crime of panic. It was calculated. She looked like she belonged. Meaning she'd been in the neighborhood before. She wasn't a stranger. This wasn't a random snatch. This was a deliberate, premeditated kidnapping. And the only reason no one caught her was because she looked normal. Investigators pulled Loretta Grange's contact info. She had passed away in 1992. But her daughter, Patricia, was still alive. Detective Moreno called her. "Mrs. Collier, this is Detective Moreno with the Texas Rangers. I'm calling about your mother, Loretta Grange." Patricia's voice was cautious. "What about her?" She gave a witness statement in 1953. "About the Campbell boy." Silence. "Then, I remember that. She talked about it for years." "What did she say?" Patricia sighed. "She said she saw a woman carrying a child that day. And she always believed, always, that it was Liam." "Why didn't anyone follow up?" "They did. But they didn't believe her. They said she was mistaken. That it was probably just a neighbor." Patricia's voice hardened. "But my mother knew every neighbor on that street. And she didn't recognize that woman." Moreno asked, "Did your mother ever describe her?" "Yes. She said the woman had dark hair. Thin. Well-dressed. She wore sunglasses even though it was cloudy that day." Moreno's pulse quickened. "Did she say anything else?" "Just one thing. She said the woman looked at her. Made eye contact. And smiled." "Smiled?" "Yes. Like she wanted my mother to see her. Like she wanted to prove she could walk away with him, and no one would stop her." Moreno hung up. Pulled Caroline Dalton's photo from the file. Dark hair. Thin. Well-dressed. It was her. But here's the worst part. Loretta Grange wasn't the only one who saw her. 2 other neighbors mentioned seeing a woman that day. One said she was walking calmly down the street. Another said she didn't look suspicious at all. But no one reported it. Because she didn't look like a kidnapper. She looked like a mother. And that's exactly what she wanted. In 2020, investigators showed James the witness statements. He read Loretta's description. A woman. Carrying a child. Calm. Not rushing. James looked up. That was her, he said quietly. How do you know? Because that's how I remember it. He closed his eyes. She picked me up. Told me we were going for a walk. I didn't fight. I didn't scream. I just went with her. His voice cracked. Because I trusted her. Moreno asked the question everyone was thinking. If 3 people saw her, why didn't anyone stop her? James answered. Because she made it look normal. She made it look right. He paused. That's what makes her dangerous. She didn't look like a monster. He looked at the photo of Caroline. She looked like someone who loved me. And that was the key. Caroline didn't kidnap Liam with force. She didn't use violence. She used trust. She worked at the nursery. She talked to him. Played with him. Made him comfortable. And when the moment came, he went willingly. Because he didn't know he was being taken. He thought he was being saved. Dr. Marsh summarized it in her final report. This was not a crime of opportunity. This was a crime of preparation. Caroline Dalton spent weeks, possibly months, building trust with Liam Campbell. She made herself safe. Familiar. Loved. And when she took him, he didn't resist. Because in his mind, she wasn't a stranger. She was someone he knew. Someone he trusted. And that trust is what allowed her to walk away in broad daylight. With witnesses watching. And no one stopped her. James read that report. And said one sentence that haunted everyone. She didn't steal me. He looked up. Tears in his eyes. She made me believe I wanted to go. The question haunted everyone. Why Liam? Why not another child? There were dozens of kids in Georgetown. Dozens of families. Dozens of backyards. So why him? Investigators dug into Caroline Dalton's past. Looking for answers. Looking for motive. And what they found changed everything. Caroline wasn't born a kidnapper. She was born Caroline Marsh. Raised in a small town in Oklahoma. Normal childhood. Normal family. Until 1948. That year. Her younger brother drowned. His name was Tommy. He was 3 years old. Playing near a creek behind their house. Their mother was inside cooking. Caroline was supposed to be watching him. But she looked away. Just for a minute. And when she turned back, he was gone. They found his body 2 hours later. Face down in the water. Caroline never forgave herself. Her mother never forgave her either. The family fell apart. Her father left. Her mother drank. And Caroline broke. Psychiatric records from 1949 showed she was hospitalized. Severe depression. Delusions. Dissociation. She kept saying the same thing over and over. I have to find him. I have to bring him back. Doctors tried to explain. Caroline, your brother is gone. You have to let him go. But she wouldn't listen. He's not gone. He's waiting. I just have to find him. She was released in 1950. Against medical advice. Her diagnosis, unresolved grief with delusional attachment. Translation? She couldn't accept her brother's death. So her mind created a new reality. One where he was still alive. Still waiting. Still needing her. In 1951, Caroline moved to Texas. Changed her name to Marilyn Price. Got a job at a nursery school. And that's when it started. According to employment records, Caroline was fired from 3 different schools between 1951 and 1953. Reason? Inappropriate attachment to children. One supervisor wrote, "Ms. Price has difficulty maintaining professional boundaries. She refers to students as hers and becomes upset when parents pick them up." Another wrote, "She seems to believe certain children belong to her. This is concerning." But no one reported it. Because she wasn't violent. She was just off. Then in May 1953, she got a job at Georgetown Methodist Nursery School. And that's where she saw him. Liam Campbell. 3 years old. Blonde hair. Blue eyes. Playing with a red toy truck. Investigators found her application to the nursery. In the "Why do you want to work with children?" section, she wrote, "Because I lost someone once. And I want to make sure no child is ever lost again." The director thought it was touching. Hired her on the spot. But it wasn't touching. It was a confession. Caroline worked at the nursery for 6 weeks. And every single day, she watched Liam. Talked to him. Played with him. One teacher remembered. She always chose Liam during playtime. Always sat with him at lunch. Always volunteered to help him with his coat. Another said, "She called him my little angel once. I thought it was sweet. Now I realize, it wasn't." But here's the part that made investigators sick. Caroline didn't just work at the nursery. She visited the Campbell house. Multiple times. Under the pretense of delivering church flyers. Margaret Campbell let her in. Offered her tea. Talked with her. Never suspected a thing. One neighbor recalled, "I saw that woman at the Campbell house a few times. Margaret said she was from the church. Very polite. Very kind." Caroline wasn't just watching Liam at school. She was studying his home. Learning his routine. Mapping his life. Investigators found something else. A photo. Tucked in Caroline's journal. A black and white photo of a little boy. Blonde hair. Blue eyes. Holding a toy car. On the back, written in faded ink, "Tommy. Age 3. 1948. Next to it, a photo of Liam. From the nursery school. Same age. Same hair. Same eyes. Dr. Marsh reviewed both photos. Her conclusion. Caroline Dalton didn't choose Liam randomly. She chose him because he looked like Tommy. Same age. Same features. Same innocence. In her mind, Liam wasn't a different child. He was Tommy. Returned to her. Given a second chance. James saw the photos. Stared at Tommy. Then at himself. "I look like him," he whispered. "Yes," Moreno said. James's hands shook. "She didn't take me because she wanted a child. No. She took me because she thought I was him." "Yes." James put the photos down. "She didn't kidnap me." He looked up. "She thought she was rescuing her brother. And that's what made it so twisted." Caroline didn't see herself as a criminal. She saw herself as a savior. In her broken mind, Liam wasn't stolen. He was reclaimed. Tommy hadn't drowned. He'd been reborn. And this time, she wouldn't let him go. Moreno asked James one question. "Did she ever call you Tommy?" James froze. His face went pale. "Once," he said quietly. "When? I was maybe 7 or 8. I broke a glass. She grabbed my arm. Looked me in the eyes. and said, "Tommy, be careful." He paused. I asked her who Tommy was. She just stared at me. Then she said, "No one." Forget I said that. James's voice cracked. I forgot. Until now. Dr. Marsh's final assessment. Caroline Dalton suffered from a rare psychological condition called replacement child syndrome, combined with delusional disorder. She genuinely believed Liam Campbell was her deceased brother reincarnated. This wasn't malice. This was untreated grief manifesting as obsession. She didn't steal a child. In her mind, she saved him. James read that report. And said something no one expected. I don't know if I can hate her. Everyone looked at him. She destroyed my life. She stole my family. She erased who I was. He wiped his eyes. But she was sick. And no one helped her. He looked at Caroline's photo. If someone had, maybe Tommy would still be the only child she lost. Caroline didn't act alone. She couldn't have. A woman walking with a child might go unnoticed. But a woman driving out of town with a stolen child? That required help. Investigators went back through the 1953 witness statements. Looking for anyone connected to Caroline. Anyone who might have assisted. And one name kept appearing. Not as a suspect. Just, there. Jack Marlowe. Quiet. Polite. Unremarkable. He rented a room at Mrs. Prescott's boarding house. Same boarding house where Caroline stayed. He arrived in Georgetown in April 1953. Left in June 1953. Right after Liam disappeared. At first glance, nothing suspicious. He worked odd jobs. Kept to himself. Paid rent on time. But when investigators dug deeper, the pieces started fitting together. Jack Marlowe wasn't his real name. His birth certificate showed Jackson Ellis. Ellis. Same last name Caroline used when she registered the gray Plymouth. Marilyn Ellis. Investigators pulled property records. Found an address in Oklahoma. The same town where Caroline grew up. Jack Ellis and Caroline Marsh. They weren't strangers. They knew each other. Further digging revealed. Jack was Caroline's cousin. Not close family. But connected. They grew up 3 streets apart. Attended the same schools. And when Tommy drowned in 1948, Jack was there. He helped search for the body. He attended the funeral. He watched Caroline fall apart. Psychiatric records from 1949 mentioned him. When Caroline was hospitalized, Jack visited her. Multiple times. One doctor's note read, "Patient's cousin, Jackson Ellis, visited today. Expressed concern for her well-being. Stated he would help her find peace." At the time, doctors thought it was supportive. Now, it sounded like a promise. Witness statements from 1953 mentioned Jack twice. Once by Mrs. Prescott, the boarding house landlord. Mr. Marlowe was a kind tenant. Quiet. Helped Miss Price with groceries once or twice. They seemed to know each other. Another by a gas station attendant. I saw a man fitting that description. Filled up a gray Plymouth on June 11th, late afternoon. Had a woman with him. And I think I saw a child in the back seat. But I can't be sure. He couldn't be sure. But he was right. The gray Plymouth. Registered to Marilyn Ellis. But witnesses saw Jack driving it. On June 11, 1953. The day Liam disappeared. He was the driver. The escape plan. The reason Caroline got away. But here's what made investigators sick. Jack wasn't a criminal mastermind. He wasn't violent. He wasn't cruel. He was just loyal. Loyal to Caroline. Loyal to her delusion. And willing to do anything to help her. In 2020, investigators tracked down Jack's records. He died in 1989. Liver failure. No family. No estate. But they found something else. A safety deposit box. Rented under the name Jackson Ellis. Unopened since his death. Inside. Letters. Dozens of letters. All from Caroline. Written over 30 years. Letter number 1, June 1953. Jack, thank you. I know what we did was dangerous. But it was right. He's safe now. He's home. Tommy is home. Letter number 7, December 1955. He's growing so fast. Sometimes I forget he was ever lost. Sometimes I forget what we had to do to bring him back. But then I remember, and I know it was worth it. Letter number 15, March 1967. He asked about his real family today. I told him they didn't want him. I told him I was the only one who ever loved him. I hope that's enough. I hope he never remembers. Letter number 28, November 1982. He's married now. Has a life I'm not part of. I see him once a year if I'm lucky. But I did what I promised. I saved him. I brought Tommy back. Even if he doesn't know it. Final letter, April 1989. Jack, I heard you're sick. I'm sorry I can't visit. But I want you to know, I never regretted it. What we did. He lived. He grew up. He became someone. And that's all that matters. Thank you for helping me. Thank you for believing me. You were the only one who ever did. Jack never responded to the letters. But he kept every single one. Locked away. Like a confession he couldn't speak. Out loud. Investigators showed the letters to James. He read them in silence. When he finished, he looked up. There were 2 of them. Yes. She didn't do this alone. No. James's jaw tightened. Who was he to her? Her cousin. They grew up together. James stared at the letters. He knew it was wrong. But he helped her anyway. Yes. Why? Moreno hesitated. Then said, because he loved her. And he couldn't say no. James stood up. Walked to the window. Stared out at nothing. You know what the worst part is? What? If he had just said no, if he had refused to drive that car, I would have grown up with my real family. His voice cracked. One person. One decision. That's all it would have taken. He turned around. But he didn't. He chose her delusion over my life. Moreno asked, do you blame him? James was quiet for a long time. Then, I don't know. He's dead. She's dead. What's the point of blame now? He sat back down. They stole my life. Both of them. And they're gone. And I'm still here. Trying to figure out who I was supposed to be. He looked at the letters. Maybe that's the real punishment. Not prison. Not justice. Just, living with what they did. Forever. Dr. Marsh reviewed Jack's role. Her conclusion. Jack Ellis was not the architect of this crime. He was the enabler. He didn't plan the abduction. He didn't groom the victim. But he made it possible. He provided the car. The escape route. The cover. Without him, Caroline would have been caught. Without him, Liam Campbell might have come home. And that makes him just as guilty. James read that. And said one thing. She was sick. But he wasn't. He looked up. He knew exactly what he was doing. And he did it anyway. James sat across from Detective Moreno. A recorder between them. This wasn't an interrogation. It was a reconstruction. Of a life built on lies. Tell me about your childhood, Moreno said gently. James hesitated. I don't know where to start. Start with your earliest memory. James closed his eyes. I remember, waiting. Waiting for what? I don't know. Just, waiting. Like something was supposed to happen. But it never did. He opened his eyes. My first clear memory is from when I was about 6. We lived in Prescott, Arizona. Small house. Quiet street. What do you remember about your mother? James flinched at the word. She wasn't my mother. I know. But that's who you knew her as. James nodded slowly. She was gentle. Always calm. Always watching me. Watching you how? Like I might disappear if she looked away. He paused. She homeschooled me. Said public school wasn't safe. Said the world was dangerous. Said I needed to stay close. Did you ever question that? No. I was a kid. I trusted her. His voice cracked. I trusted everything she told me. Moreno pulled out a document. James's birth certificate. Forged. Name, James Andrew Dalton. Born, April 3, 1950. Mother, Caroline Grace Dalton. Father, unknown. She gave you her last name, Moreno said. James stared at it. I always wondered why there was no father listed. What did she tell you? That he left before I was born. That he didn't want me. That she was all I had. He looked up. I believed her. For 69 years, I believed her. Moreno asked, did she ever tell you about your past? Once. When I was about 16. What did she say? James took a breath. I was angry. I wanted to get my driver's license. She said no. I yelled at her. Said I wanted to know who I really was. He paused. She looked at me. Real calm. And she said, you used to be someone else. But that name wasn't meant for you. What did you think she meant? I thought maybe I was adopted. Or maybe she changed my name legally. I don't know. Did you ask? Yes. She said, some questions are better left alone. James's hands clenched. So I left it alone. Because I didn't want to hurt her. Moreno showed him another document. His school records. Or lack of them. You were never enrolled in any school. Never had a pediatrician. Never had vaccinations on record. James frowned. That's impossible. I remember going to the doctor. You might have. But not under your real name. And not with official records. Why? Because she couldn't risk anyone finding out who you really were. James sat back. I lived my entire life off the grid. And I didn't even know it. You never applied for a passport? No. She said we didn't need one. Never tried to join the military? She begged me not to. Said she couldn't lose me. Never questioned why you had no extended family? James's voice dropped. I asked once. She said they all died. He looked at Moreno. Another lie. Tell me about friends, Moreno said. James laughed bitterly. I didn't have any. She didn't let me. Never? Not until college. And even then, she called every single day. Sometimes twice. What did she say? Are you okay? Are you safe? Do you need me to come get you? He shook his head. I thought she was overprotective. Now I know, she was terrified I'd find out the truth. Moreno asked the hardest question. Did you love her? James's eyes filled with tears. Yes. Even now? I don't know. Part of me does. Part of me always will. He wiped his face. She raised me. Fed me. Kept me safe. In her own twisted way, she loved me. But she stole me. She erased me. She made me live a lie. His voice broke. And I can't forgive that. No matter how much I want to. Moreno showed him one more thing. A photo from 1953. Margaret Campbell holding baby Liam. Her face full of joy. This is your real mother, Moreno said. James stared at it. I don't remember her. I know. I don't feel anything when I look at her. That's normal. James put the photo down. How is it normal? She's my mother. And I feel nothing. He stood up. Paced the room. Caroline took everything from me. My family. My name. My memories. He turned around. But you know what she took the most? What? The ability to mourn. Because I didn't know what I lost. I grew up thinking I had a mother who loved me. I grew up thinking I was wanted. His voice shook. But I wasn't wanted. I was stolen. Moreno said quietly, you were wanted, James. By your real parents. James shook his head. But I never knew them. And now they're dead. He sat back down. So what's the point? Silence filled the room. Then James said something that broke everyone listening. The worst part isn't that she lied to me. What is it? It's that I still love her. Even knowing everything. Even hating her. He looked at Moreno. I still love the woman who destroyed my life. He covered his face. What does that make me? Moreno reached across the table. It makes you human. But James didn't respond. Because in that moment, he realized the cruelest truth of all. Caroline didn't just steal his past. She stole his ability to hate her for it. Because you can't hate the only mother you ever knew. Even if she was never your mother at all. The question everyone asked. How did a stolen child grow up without anyone noticing? How did he go to doctors, get jobs, get married? And never get caught? The answer was simple. And terrifying. Caroline planned everything. Not just the abduction. The entire life that followed. She didn't just take Liam. She erased him. And rebuilt him from scratch. Step 1, the birth certificate. Caroline forged James's birth certificate in 1953. Back then, it wasn't hard. No computers. No databases. No cross-checking. You filled out a form at the county clerk's office. Provided a name, date, and signature. That was it. She listed herself as the mother. Father, unknown. Birthplace, Flagstaff, Arizona. No one questioned it. No one verified it. It became official. James Andrew Dalton was born. Liam Campbell ceased to exist. Step 2, no school enrollment. James was never enrolled in public school. Caroline homeschooled him. In 1953, homeschooling wasn't regulated like today. No state testing. No oversight. No check-ins. If a parent said they were teaching their child, the state believed them. James grew up isolated. No classmates. No teachers. No records. No one to ask questions. Step 3. No medical records. James got sick like any kid. Fevers. Colds. A broken arm once. But Caroline never took him to the same doctor twice. She'd drive 2 towns over. Pay cash. Give a fake address. Use a slightly different name. James A. Dalton. J. Andrew Dalton. James Dalton Jr. Close enough to his forged birth certificate. But different enough to avoid patterns. And in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, doctors didn't share records. There was no centralized system. If you paid cash and didn't come back, you disappeared. Step 4. Constant relocation. Caroline moved every 2 to 3 years. Arizona. New Mexico. Nevada. Back to Arizona. Never stayed long enough for neighbors to ask questions. Never formed close relationships. Never let James form attachments. She told people she was a widow, raising her son alone. People felt sorry for her. No one suspected her. Investigators tracked their addresses. 1953 to 1956, Prescott, Arizona. 1956 to 1959, Alamogordo, New Mexico. 1959 to 1962, Las Cruces, New Mexico. 1962 to 1965, Reno, Nevada. 1965 to 1968, Tucson, Arizona. 1968 to 1971, Flagstaff, Arizona. 12 moves in 18 years. Every time James started to settle, they left. James remembered it. She'd wake me up in the middle of the night sometimes. Say we had to go. I'd ask why. She'd say, "It's not safe here anymore." Did you believe her? I was a kid. Of course I believed her. He paused. Now I know, she wasn't running from danger. She was running from discovery. Step 5. No social security number, until later. James didn't get a social security number until he was 18. When he wanted to go to college, Caroline fought it. Said he didn't need one. But James insisted. So she applied for one, using his forged birth certificate. And it worked. Because by 1968, the system assumed the birth certificate was real. No one checked back to 1953. No one cross-referenced missing children. He got his social security number. Got his driver's license. Got his first job. And the system never flagged him. Step 6. Isolation equals control. James didn't have friends until college. Caroline made sure of that. She told him other kids were cruel. That the world was dangerous. That he was safest with her. And James believed it. Because he didn't know any different. When he finally went to college in 1968, Caroline called him every single day. Sometimes twice. James thought it was love. Now he knows, it was surveillance. She was terrified I'd tell someone something, James said. Like what? I don't know. Maybe that I didn't remember my early childhood. Maybe that I had gaps in my memory. He shook his head. But I never talked about it. Because she taught me not to. Step 7. No photos. No records. No proof. Investigators searched for childhood photos of James. Found almost none. Caroline rarely took pictures. And when she did, she kept them hidden. No photo albums. No scrapbooks. Like she didn't want evidence of his existence. Or maybe she didn't want him to see how much he'd changed. How much he didn't look like the boy she took. The final truth. Caroline didn't hide James through luck. She hid him through obsession. Every move was calculated. Every decision was deliberate. She spent 66 years making sure no one found out. And it worked. Until DNA caught up. Dr. Marsh's report concluded. Caroline Dalton didn't just kidnap Liam Campbell. She systematically erased his identity and constructed a false life. This required planning, intelligence, and ruthless discipline. She isolated him socially, moved frequently, avoided documentation, and maintained total control over his narrative. This is not the behavior of an impulsive criminal. This is the behavior of someone who knew exactly what she was doing, and spent a lifetime covering it up. James read that. And said, "She didn't just steal me once." "What do you mean?" "She stole me every single day. For 66 years. He looked up. "Every time she moved us. Every time she kept me home. Every time she told me I didn't need friends." His voice shook. "She was stealing me. Over and over." Moreno asked, "Do you think she ever regretted it?" James thought for a long time. Then, "No. I don't think she did." "Why not?" "Because in her mind, she didn't steal me." He paused. "She saved me. And that was the most terrifying part. Caroline never felt guilty. Never felt wrong. Because she genuinely believed. She was the hero of this story. Not the villain." February 2020. Investigators finally located it. The house where Caroline lived longest. An old yellow brick house in Prescott, Arizona. She owned it from 1968 to 1982. 14 years. The longest James ever stayed anywhere as a child. The current owner was an elderly woman named Ruth Connolly. She bought the house in 1983. Never met Caroline. But she knew the house had history. "There's something off about this place," she told investigators. "Always has been." Ruth led them inside. The house was small. 2 bedrooms. 1 bathroom. Nothing special. But when she led them to the attic, everything changed. "I never go up here," Ruth said. "The stairs are bad. And it's just storage." She opened the attic door. Dust poured down. Moreno and Hayes climbed the narrow stairs. The attic was dark. Cramped. Smelled like old wood and decay. Boxes stacked against the walls. Most of them empty. But in the far corner, behind a loose panel, they found it. A metal trunk. Locked. Rusted. Hidden. Hayes pried it open with a crowbar. The hinges screamed. And inside, evidence. Item number 1, a child's yellow shirt. Torn at the collar. Faded but recognizable. The same shirt Liam was wearing the day he disappeared. Moreno held it up. Her hands shook. "This is it," she whispered. "This is the shirt from the fence." The lab would later confirm. Fabric matched the torn piece found in 1953. DNA matched Liam Campbell. Caroline had kept it. For 66 years. Item number 2, a faded photo. Black and white. A little boy. 3 years old. Blonde hair. Blue eyes. Standing in a backyard. Holding a red toy truck. On the back, written in pencil. Liam Campbell, age 3. June 1953. She knew his name. She knew who he was. And she kept the proof. Item number 3, a newspaper clipping. Yellow. Brittle. Almost falling apart. Headline. 3-year-old boy vanishes from Georgetown backyard. Authorities search for Liam Campbell. The article described the search. The heartbroken parents. The entire town looking for him. And on the back of that clipping, Caroline had written something. In pen. Neat handwriting. I didn't take him because he was missing. I took him because he wasn't. Moreno read that line 3 times. Each time, it got worse. What does that even mean? Hayes asked. Moreno shook her head. I think she's saying he wasn't loved. Wasn't protected. Wasn't safe. She looked at the clipping. In her mind, she didn't kidnap him. Then what did she do? She rescued him. They kept digging. Found more. Item number 4, a child's drawing. Crayon on construction paper. A house. A tree. A stick figure woman and a stick figure boy. At the top, in a child's handwriting. Me and Mom. James drew that. When he was maybe 6 or 7. He didn't know his mom wasn't his mom. He didn't know he was drawing his captor. Item number 5, a lock of hair. Blonde. Soft. Tied with a small ribbon. A label attached. Tommy. Age 3. But it wasn't Tommy's hair. It was Liam's. Caroline had cut it. Kept it. Labeled it with her dead brother's name. Moreno sat back on her heels. She never let him go, she said quietly. What do you mean? In her mind, he wasn't James. He wasn't even Liam. She held up the lock of hair. He was Tommy. Forever. They brought the trunk back to the station. Catalogued everything. Sent it to forensics. And then they showed it to James. James sat in the conference room. The items spread across the table. The shirt. The photo. The clipping. The drawing. The hair. He didn't speak. Just stared. Moreno pointed to the drawing. Do you remember making this? James nodded slowly. I was 6. Maybe 7. She told me to draw our family. He touched the paper. I was so proud of it. I thought I made her happy. His voice broke. But it was all a lie. Hayes showed him the newspaper clipping. James read Caroline's handwritten note. I didn't take him because he was missing. I took him because he wasn't. What does that mean to you? Hayes asked. James was quiet for a long time. Then, she thought my parents didn't deserve me. Why? Because my mom looked away. Because I was alone in the yard. Because in her mind, if they really loved me, I wouldn't have been vulnerable. He looked up. She saw an opportunity. And she took it. Moreno showed him the lock of hair. She labeled this Tommy. James stared at it. She cut my hair? Yes. When you were young. James reached out. Touched the ribbon. I remember that. She said it was too long. That she wanted to keep a piece of me. He pulled his hand back. I thought it was sweet. His jaw clenched. But she wasn't keeping a piece of me. She was keeping a piece of him. He stood up. Walked to the window. She never saw me as James. Or Liam. She saw me as Tommy. Yes. So who am I? Moreno stepped closer. You're Liam Campbell. You always were. James shook his head. No. Liam Campbell died in 1953. The moment she carried him away. He turned around. I'm what's left. Hayes asked, what do you want to do with these items? James looked at the table. At the shirt. The photo. The clipping. Evidence of a life stolen. Keep them, he said. For the record. You don't want them? No. Why not? James's voice was cold. Because they're not mine. They're hers. He walked toward the door. She kept them to remember. To hold on to her delusion. He stopped. Looked back. I don't want to remember. I want to forget. But he couldn't forget. Because the truth was, Caroline didn't just keep souvenirs. She kept proof. Proof that she knew exactly who he was. Proof that she stole him. Proof that for 66 years, she never felt guilty. Not once. Caroline didn't run because she felt guilty. She ran because she felt justified. And that's what made her dangerous. Investigators pulled every piece of Caroline's history. Medical records. Psychiatric evaluations. Personal journals. Looking for the moment she broke. The moment delusion became action. And they found it. 1948, the drowning. Tommy Marsh. Age 3. Drowned in a creek behind their Oklahoma home. Caroline was supposed to be watching him. She was 15. Their mother was inside cooking dinner. Caroline looked away for 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes. When she turned back, Tommy was gone. The police report described it as accidental. No foul play. No negligence. Just a tragedy. But Caroline's mother didn't see it that way. Hospital records from 1948 showed Caroline was admitted. Not for physical injuries. For a breakdown. She wouldn't eat. Wouldn't sleep. Wouldn't speak. Just rocked back and forth. Repeating the same words. He's not dead. He's waiting. I have to find him. A psychiatrist evaluated her. Diagnosis: acute grief reaction with dissociative symptoms. Prognosis: poor without intervention. But her mother refused treatment. Said Caroline just needed time. Said prayer would heal her. It didn't. 1949, the first warning sign. Caroline was released from the hospital. Returned home. But she wasn't the same. Neighbors noticed her sitting by the creek. Every day. 4 hours. Waiting. One neighbor, Mrs. Hollis, later told investigators. I asked her once what she was doing. She said, waiting for Tommy. I said, honey, Tommy's gone. She looked at me and said, no. He's coming back. I just have to wait. Mrs. Hollis thought it was grief. It wasn't. It was delusion taking root. 1950, the obsession begins. Caroline started following children. Not in a predatory way. In a searching way. She'd walk past schools. Playgrounds. Parks. Looking. Always looking. Her mother noticed. Confronted her. What are you doing, Caroline? Looking for Tommy. Tommy's dead. Caroline's eyes went cold. No. He's not. You just don't see him. Her mother sent her back to the hospital. This time, doctors were more concerned. Psychiatric evaluation, March 1950. Patient, Caroline Marsh, age 17. Presenting issue, delusional belief that deceased brother is alive. Assessment, patient shows signs of unresolved grief manifesting as fixed delusion. She believes her brother's death was not real and that he will return. She exhibits obsessive behavior, including searching for children who resemble her brother. Patient is not violent but shows concerning attachment patterns. Recommendation: long-term psychiatric care. Medication. Therapy. But Caroline was released after 3 months. Against medical advice. Her mother couldn't afford long-term care. And Caroline promised to be normal. She lied. 1951, the first attempt. Caroline moved to Texas. Got a job at a nursery school in Amarillo. Lasted 2 months. She was fired. Reason? She tried to take a child home. The incident report stated. Ms. Marsh told a 3-year-old boy that his mother wasn't coming back. She took his hand and attempted to leave the building with him. When stopped, she became agitated. Said the child needed her. Said she was saving him. Police were not called. She was terminated immediately. No charges filed. No record kept. Just a warning. And Caroline moved on. 1952 to 1953, the pattern. Caroline worked at 3 more schools. Fired from each one. Always the same reason. Inappropriate attachment to children. But no one connected the dots. No one saw the pattern. Because each school was in a different town. Each time, she used a different name. Marilyn Price. Caroline Ellis. Grace Dalton. And then, she saw Liam. May 1953, the decision. Caroline's journal entry from May 12, 1953. I saw him today. He's the same age Tommy was. Same hair. Same eyes. Same smile. He plays alone sometimes. His mother doesn't watch him closely enough. She doesn't deserve him. But I do. I've been waiting 5 years. And now, finally, he's here. She didn't stumble upon Liam. She chose him. Deliberately. June 1953, the abduction. Caroline didn't run because she panicked. She ran because she planned to. She had already packed. Already arranged for Jack to drive her. Already scouted a place to live in Arizona. She took Liam. And she disappeared. Because in her mind, she wasn't committing a crime. She was fulfilling a promise. To Tommy. To herself. The secret she held. Caroline never told anyone the truth. Not Jack. Not James. Not even herself, fully. She convinced herself that Liam was Tommy. Reincarnated. Returned. Restored. And if she ever doubted it, she buried that doubt deep. Because admitting the truth meant admitting she destroyed 2 families. Stole a child. Lived a lie. And she couldn't do that. So she didn't. Dr. Marsh's analysis. Caroline Dalton didn't run out of fear of being caught. She ran because staying would have forced her to confront reality. By moving constantly, by isolating James, by avoiding deep relationships, she maintained her delusion. She built a world where her narrative was the only narrative. And she protected that world with ruthless precision. James read that report. And said, she didn't just lie to me. No. She lied to herself. Every single day. He paused. And I think, deep down, she knew. Knew what? That I wasn't Tommy. That I was someone else's son. He looked up. But she couldn't admit it. Because if she did, her entire life would collapse. Moreno asked, do you think she ever wanted to confess? James thought for a long time. Then pulled out a piece of paper. Caroline's final journal entry. Written 2 weeks before she died. I see him sometimes. The real boy. The one I took. He asks me why. I don't have an answer anymore. Maybe I never did. James's voice cracked. She knew. At the end, she knew. But she never said anything. No. Because saying it out loud would make it real. He folded the paper. So she took the secret to her grave. And she did. Caroline Dalton died in 2003. Never confessed. Never apologized. Never faced justice. She lived 66 years believing she was right. And died. Still believing it. March 2020. James returned to Georgetown. Not for the investigation. Not for closure. But because something was pulling him back. A memory. Just out of reach. He stood under the oak tree. Same spot where he'd stood 2 weeks earlier. But this time, he was alone. No detectives. No cameras. No witnesses. Just him. And the tree. He closed his eyes. Tried to remember. Tried to feel something. Anything. But there was nothing. Just emptiness. He opened his eyes. Looked at the back door of the yellow house. And then. Something shifted. It wasn't a memory. Not at first. It was a feeling. A sensation. Like déjà vu. But stronger. He walked toward the fence. Slowly. His hand reached out. Touched the wood. And suddenly. He wasn't 69 anymore. He was 3. He could see her. A woman. Smiling. Reaching for him. Her voice was soft. Gentle. Come here, sweetheart. Let's go for a walk. He remembered the dress. Light yellow. The same color as the torn fabric found on the fence. He remembered her hands. Warm. Safe. She picked him up. He didn't fight. He didn't cry. He trusted her. She carried him toward the fence. He looked back. Saw his red truck in the grass. Wanted to go back for it. But she said, "Don't worry. We'll get you a new one." And he believed her. She lifted him over the fence. His shirt caught. Tore. But she didn't stop. Just kept walking. Fast. Not running. But not slow either. He remembered the car. Gray. Big. A man was driving. She put him in the back seat. He looked out the window. Saw his house getting smaller. And smaller. And then. Gone. James gasped. His knees buckled. He grabbed the fence to steady himself. Tears streaming down his face. "I remember," he whispered. "I remember." He fell to the ground. Sobbing. Not quiet tears. Deep, gut-wrenching sobs. The kind that come from 66 years of buried truth. He remembered her voice. In the car. Singing softly. "You're safe now. You're mine now." He remembered believing her. Remembered feeling safe. Because he didn't know. He didn't know he was being stolen. He remembered the first night. A small room. A bed that wasn't his. He cried. Asked for his mama. And she held him. Rocked him. Said, "I'm your mama now." And eventually. He stopped crying. Because he had no choice. James sat in the grass. Under the oak tree. Where it all began. And finally. He remembered. But remembering didn't bring relief. It brought pain. Because now he knew. He could have stopped it. If he had screamed. If he had fought. If he had run back to his mother. Maybe someone would have noticed. Maybe someone would have stopped her. But he didn't. He went willingly. Because he trusted her. "It's not your fault." James looked up. Detective Moreno stood a few feet away. He hadn't heard her approach. "You were 3 years old," she said gently. You didn't know. James shook his head. But I should have known. I should have. You were a child. She manipulated you. That's what predators do. James wiped his face. She wasn't a predator. She was sick. She was both. Moreno sat down beside him. What do you remember? James took a shaky breath. Everything. I remember her picking me up. I remember the car. I remember her singing. He paused. I remember her telling me I was safe. His voice broke. And I believed her. Do you remember your real mother? James closed his eyes. Barely. Just a feeling. Warmth. The smell of something baking. He opened his eyes. But I can't see her face. I can't hear her voice. He looked at Moreno. Caroline took that from me. She didn't just steal my life. She stole my memories. Moreno asked quietly, if you could talk to your real mother now, what would you say? James didn't answer right away. Then, I'd say I'm sorry. For what? For forgetting her. For not coming home. For living my whole life without knowing she was waiting. His voice cracked. I'd tell her I didn't mean to leave. I didn't mean to forget. He covered his face. But she's dead. So I'll never get to say it. They sat in silence. Then James said something that shattered everyone who heard it later. You know what the worst part is? What? I still see Caroline as my mother. Even knowing everything. Even hating her. He looked at the tree. When I think of Mom, I see her face. Not Margaret Campbell's. Caroline's. He turned to Moreno. Does that make me a bad person? Moreno's eyes filled with tears. No. It makes you human. She put a hand on his shoulder. You can't control what your brain remembers. You can't control who raised you. She paused. But you can control what you do now. James stood up. Wiped his face. Looked at the house one more time. I don't belong here, he said. Where do you belong? James didn't answer. Because he didn't know. He didn't belong in Georgetown. He didn't belong in Arizona. He didn't belong anywhere. Because Liam Campbell died in 1953. And James Dalton never really existed. But as he walked away, he stopped. Turned back. Looked at the oak tree one last time. And whispered. I'm sorry, Mama. I'm sorry I didn't come home. The wind blew. The leaves rustled. And for just a moment, James felt something. Not a memory. Not a voice. But a presence. Warm. Loving. Forgiving. Margaret Campbell couldn't respond. She'd been gone for 35 years. But somehow, James felt like she heard him. And maybe, just maybe, she forgave him. He turned and walked away. Left the house. Left the tree. Left the past behind. But he carried something with him. Not guilt. Not shame. But truth. He finally knew who he was. He finally knew what happened. And even though it destroyed him, it also set him free. Because the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than a lie. Even if the lie felt like love. April 2020. The news broke. Not quietly. Not carefully. But everywhere. Missing Texas boy found alive after 67 years. Liam Campbell discovered living in Arizona under false identity. DNA solves 1953 cold case, victim never knew he was stolen. Georgetown, Texas went silent. Not with shock. With shame. Because the truth wasn't just that Liam was taken. The truth was, someone they knew did it. Someone they talked to. Someone they trusted. And no one stopped her. The town held a meeting. Georgetown Community Center. April 18, 2020. Over 300 people showed up. Some remembered 1953. Most didn't. But everyone felt the weight. Mayor Linda Hernandez stood at the podium. Her voice shook. This town failed Liam Campbell. Silence. We didn't just lose a child. We let someone walk away with him. In broad daylight. With witnesses watching. She paused. And for 67 years, we lived with that failure. Some of us forgot. Some of us never knew. But the failure remained. An elderly woman stood up. Her name was Patricia Collier. Daughter of Loretta Grange. The witness who saw Caroline carrying Liam. My mother never forgave herself, Patricia said. Her voice cracked. She saw that woman. She saw the child. And she didn't say anything. Tears streamed down her face. She died believing she could have saved him. And maybe she could have. She sat down. Sobbing. Another man stood. Older. Gray hair. Hands shaking. My father was Sheriff Miles. He led the investigation. Everyone turned. He died in 1987. But before he died, he told me something. He paused. He said, I let that boy down. I interviewed the woman who took him. And I let her walk away. His voice broke. He carried that guilt to his grave. One by one, people spoke. Some apologized. Some cried. Some sat in silence. Because what could they say? A child was stolen. And their town let it happen. But then, someone asked the question everyone was thinking. Where is he now? Where's Liam? Mayor Hernandez hesitated. He prefers to be called James. And he's asked for privacy. Is he coming back here? I don't know. Does he blame us? Silence. Because the truth was, James didn't blame Georgetown. He blamed himself. For trusting Caroline. For forgetting his real family. For living a lie. And that was worse than any judgment the town could pass. The meeting ended. But the guilt didn't. It hung over Georgetown like a fog. Thick. Heavy. Suffocating. 1 week later, the town council met privately. Discussed what to do. How to make it right. Someone suggested a memorial. Someone else suggested a scholarship fund. But Mayor Hernandez said something that stopped everyone. We can't fix the past. But we can protect the future. She proposed something bold. Something unprecedented. Liam's Law. A local ordinance requiring immediate statewide alerts for any child disappearance. No delays. No waiting periods. No assumptions. If a child goes missing, every resource gets deployed. Immediately. The proposal passed unanimously. And on June 11, 2020, exactly 67 years after Liam disappeared, Liam's Law went into effect. The ceremony was small. Just city officials. A few reporters. Some residents. James wasn't there. He was invited. But he declined. Said he couldn't face it. Mayor Hernandez read a statement on his behalf. I don't want my story to be remembered as a tragedy. I want it to be remembered as a warning. Children are vulnerable. Predators are patient. And communities must be vigilant. If Liam's law saves even one child, then maybe my stolen life meant something. Not a dry eye in the room. 3 months later, Liam's law saved its first child. A 4-year-old girl in Bastrop, Texas. Reported missing at 2:47 p.m. Amber Alert triggered immediately. Found safe at 4:12 p.m. 85 minutes. That's all it took. Because the system worked. Because people acted fast. Because Georgetown learned. The girl's mother called James. Thanked him. Told him her daughter was safe because of him. James didn't know what to say. So he just said, "I'm glad." And hung up. Later, he told Moreno, "I couldn't save myself. But maybe I saved her." His voice cracked. Maybe that's enough. But it wasn't just Georgetown that changed. The case became national news. Documentaries. Podcasts. Articles. Everyone wanted to know. How did this happen? How did a stolen child live 67 years without knowing? And the answer was always the same. Because no one asked the right questions. Because no one looked close enough. Because evil doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes it looks like kindness. Like a gentle woman carrying a child. Like someone who says, "You're safe now." The Georgetown Memorial. In December 2020, the town unveiled a small memorial. In the park near Willow Creek Road. A bronze plaque. Simple. Elegant. In memory of Liam Campbell. Taken June 11, 1953. Found alive, 2019. May we never forget. May we always protect. James attended. Stood quietly in the back. No one recognized him. He wanted it that way. After the ceremony, he walked to the plaque. Touched his name. Liam Campbell. A name he barely remembered. A life he never got to live. An elderly woman approached. She looked familiar. But James couldn't place her. "You're him, aren't you?" she asked softly. James hesitated. Then nodded. She reached out. Took his hand. "I was 5 when you disappeared. I lived 2 houses down." Tears filled her eyes. "I remember your mother. She used to give me cookies." James's throat tightened. "She was kind. And she never stopped believing you'd come home." The woman squeezed his hand. "I'm sorry you didn't get to meet her." James couldn't speak. Just nodded. The woman walked away. And James stood there. Alone. Staring at the memorial. He whispered, "I'm home now, Mama. I'm finally home." But it didn't feel like home. It felt like a graveyard. For the boy he used to be. For the family he never knew. For the life that was stolen. And as the sun set, James turned. And walked away. Not running. Not hiding. Just walking. Because he finally knew. You can't go back. You can only go forward. Even when the past is all you have left. January 15, 2021. Texas Department of Public Safety. Austin headquarters. A press conference was scheduled. The room was packed. Reporters. Cameras. Microphones everywhere. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. The official closure of the Liam Campbell case. Captain Rachel Moreno stepped to the podium. Behind her, a projection screen. Case hashtag 53-0611-TC. Liam Campbell, missing child. Status, resolved. Moreno's voice was steady. Professional. But emotion leaked through. On June 11, 1953, 3-year-old Liam Campbell was abducted from his backyard in Georgetown, Texas. For 67 years, his case remained unsolved. His parents died without answers. His community lived with guilt. And Liam himself lived without knowing who he was. She paused. Today, we are officially closing this case. The room erupted. Questions shouted from every direction. Moreno raised her hand. Let me finish. Silence. Thanks to advancements in DNA technology and the tireless work of investigators across multiple states, Liam Campbell was found alive in 2019. He had been living under the name James Dalton in Arizona. He was raised by Caroline Dalton, formerly known as Caroline Marsh, who abducted him in 1953. She clicked to the next slide. Caroline's photo appeared. Caroline Dalton suffered from untreated psychiatric illness stemming from the accidental death of her younger brother in 1948. She became fixated on the idea that Liam Campbell was her brother reincarnated. She groomed him, abducted him, and spent the next 66 years hiding him from the world. Another slide. Jack Ellis. She was assisted by her cousin, Jack Ellis, who provided transportation and support. Both individuals are now deceased. No criminal charges can be filed. A reporter shouted, "What about justice?" Moreno looked directly at the camera. Justice isn't always about punishment. Sometimes, it's about truth. She clicked to the final slide. Case status, resolved. Victim, alive. Perpetrators, deceased. No further action required. But the room wasn't satisfied. Where is Liam now? Will he speak publicly? How is he coping? Moreno held up a hand. Liam Campbell, who prefers to be called James, has requested privacy. He will not be making public statements. He is working with therapists and trying to rebuild his life. Is he angry? Moreno hesitated. Then, he's devastated. But not angry. He understands Caroline was sick. And he's choosing to move forward. One reporter asked the hardest question. Do you consider this case a success? Moreno's jaw tightened. We found him alive. That's more than most cold cases can say. She paused. But no, I don't consider it a success. Because a child was stolen. A family was destroyed. And 2 people died waiting for answers they never got. Her voice cracked. So no. This isn't a success. This is a tragedy with a bittersweet ending. The press conference ended. But the story didn't. The official record. Texas DPS filed the final report. 73 pages. Every detail documented. Every witness statement included. Every piece of evidence catalogued. Liam Campbell was abducted on June 11, 1953 by Caroline Marsh, alias Marilyn Price, Caroline Ellis, Grace Dalton, with assistance from Jack Ellis, alias Jack Marlowe. The abduction was premeditated and motivated by delusional disorder stemming from unresolved grief. The victim was raised under a false identity and remained unaware of his true origins until 2019. Both perpetrators are deceased. Victim has been located alive and is receiving appropriate support. Case is hereby closed. But closing the case didn't erase it. Liam's law expanded beyond Georgetown. Within a year, 15 Texas counties adopted similar measures. Within 2 years, it became state law. Within 3 years, other states started following. By 2023, Liam's law had been credited with saving 12 children. 12 families who didn't have to wait 67 years. 12 kids who got to go home. James never took credit. Never did interviews. Never sought recognition. But he knew. And that was enough. People think closure means peace. It doesn't. Closure just means knowing. And knowing doesn't always heal. James knew his name, knew his history, knew what happened. But he still woke up some nights, hearing Caroline's voice. "You're safe now." He still flinched when someone called him Liam, because that name felt foreign, like wearing someone else's skin. He still looked at photos of Margaret and Richard Campbell, and felt nothing. Just emptiness. Because they were strangers. And he hated himself for that. Therapists told him it was normal. That trauma rewires the brain. That he couldn't force himself to feel something that wasn't there. But it didn't help. Because the guilt remained. 1 year later, June 11, 2021. James returned to Georgetown. Alone. No press. No cameras. No ceremony. Just him. He stood at his parents' graves. Side by side. Margaret Campbell. 1925 to 1985. Beloved mother. Richard Campbell. 1923 to 1994. Beloved father. James knelt down, placed 2 white roses on the graves, and said the words he'd been holding for 68 years. "I'm sorry I didn't come home. I'm sorry you died waiting. I'm sorry I forgot you." His voice broke. "But I'm here now. And I'll never forget again." He stayed there for an hour, talking to them, telling them about his life, his kids, his grandkids, his career, all the things they missed, all the moments they should have been part of. And when he finally stood to leave, he whispered one last thing. "Thank you for never giving up on me. Even when I didn't know you were waiting." The wind blew. The trees rustled. And James felt it again. That presence. Warm. Loving. Forgiving. He walked away. Not looking back. Because he finally understood. Closure wasn't about forgetting. It was about accepting. Accepting that some things can't be fixed. Some wounds never fully heal. Some losses are permanent. But life goes on. And so did he. In the Texas DPS archive, the Liam Campbell file sits in a secure cabinet. Marked, Resolved, 2021. Next to it, a handwritten note from Captain Moreno. "This case taught me something. Evil doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it wears a kind face. Speaks softly. Acts gently. And that's what makes it so dangerous. We can't always stop it. But we can learn from it. We can be vigilant. We can protect the vulnerable. And we can make sure no child waits 67 years to be found again." The file was closed. But the lesson remained. And somewhere in Arizona, a man named James Dalton, formerly Liam Campbell, was learning to live. Not with the past, but despite it. April 2022. James returned to Georgetown one last time. Not to the cemetery. Not to the memorial. To the house. The yellow house on Willow Creek Road. Still standing. Still faded. Still waiting. The current owner, Mrs. Ruth Connolly, had called him. "There's something you need to see," she said. James walked through the front door. Down the hallway. To the bedroom at the end. The room that had been frozen for 69 years. Ruth stood in the doorway. "I've been cleaning. Getting ready to renovate. And I found something." She handed him a small wooden box. It was hidden under the floorboard. Beneath his bed. James's hands shook. He opened it. Inside, Letters. Dozens of them. All addressed to Liam. All written by Margaret Campbell. He picked up the first one. June 12, 1953. My darling Liam, wherever you are, I'm waiting. I'll always be waiting. Come home, baby. Please come home. James's vision blurred. He picked up another. December 25, 1960. It's Christmas. Your favorite day. I baked your favorite cookies. Set a place for you at the table. Your father says I'm foolish. But I know you're out there. I know you're alive. And one day, you'll come home. Another. June 11, 1975. 22 years today. You'd be 25 now. Maybe married. Maybe with children of your own. I wonder if you remember me. I wonder if you know I never stopped looking. I never stopped loving you. James couldn't breathe. His mother had written to him. Every year. Every birthday. Every holiday. For 32 years. The final letter was dated 3 weeks before she died. October 1985. I'm tired, my sweet boy. The doctors say I don't have much time. But I'm not afraid. Because I believe, when I close my eyes for the last time, I'll finally see you again. Maybe not in this world. But in the next. Wait for me there, Liam. Just like I waited for you here. James collapsed to his knees. Clutching the letters. Sobbing. Not quiet tears. But the kind that come from a broken soul. She never stopped, he whispered. No, Ruth said softly. She never did. James looked at the red toy truck. Still sitting on the dresser. He picked it up. This time, he didn't leave it behind. He stood in the center of the room. Holding the truck in one hand. The letters in the other. And he said the only thing left to say. I may have forgotten who I was. His voice cracked. But the world didn't. He turned to Ruth. Can I take these? They're yours. They always were. James walked out of the house. Carrying the truck. Carrying the letters. Carrying 69 years of love he never knew existed. He stood under the oak tree one last time. Looked up at the branches. And whispered. I'm here, Mama. I finally came home. The wind blew. The leaves rustled. And for the first time in 69 years, the boy who was taken felt found. Not because he remembered everything. Not because the pain was gone. But because he finally understood. He was loved. He was wanted. He was missed. Every single day. By a mother who never gave up. By a father who never stopped hoping. By a town that never forgot. James walked to his car. Placed the truck gently in the passenger seat. The letters beside it. And as he drove away, he didn't feel empty anymore. He felt whole. Because the truth wasn't that he lost 69 years. The truth was, someone spent 69 years waiting for him to come back. And now, finally, he had. The greatest lesson from the case: community safety is a shared responsibility, and technology only reaches its full potential when we proactively share, stay vigilant, and cooperate. Thank you for staying with us to the end of this journey through the Liam Campbell case file. Please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more cases brought to light through technology and persistent effort like this one. See you in the next video, where we'll continue exploring stories that seemed lost to time but still have answers waiting to be given.